Isn't it fun to be a human being? Every few months or so, we face down another existential threat that could possibly wipe countless lives off the face of the earth. Even better, these things are all reported online where anyone can insert their hot take or over-the-top reaction in the blink of an eye. No wonder folks are always so heated. With the news breaking that Russia has potentially fired some warning shots at a British warship, one has to wonder if this could potentially escalate any further. Hopefully not, because we're still dealing with a whole bevy of other problems. But hey, might as well keep up with current events. So today we're going to ask the question that folks are dreading. What if Russia and Britain start World War III? Oh no. The first thing I will say is that the last time a couple major powers started firing shots at each other, we ended up forgetting about it rather quickly. I'm not talking about Israel and Palestine or China and India. I'm talking about when America caused a whole lot of contention by bombing Iranian military bases and killing the commander of their military forces. Remember that? Just seems like so much has happened since then, and that was just at the beginning of 2020. So, if I recall correctly, we here on Life's Biggest Questions posed a similar question back then, something along the lines of who would win World War III, with the participants being America and Iran. But before anything played out, a whole new global issue reared its ugly head: COVID-19. This pandemic quickly took over as the news piece that would fascinate folks around the world, and so it did. Talks of a war between these two countries faded away and didn't really seem to come up again. And like I mentioned earlier, other conflicts did go on in the meantime, although none ever reached a level one might compare to a Third World War. So what am I saying by bringing up this older topic like this? Well, we'd better be careful while forecasting potential wars, because if we decide that a conflict is going to escalate and then start predicting what would happen, we might just find ourselves in the midst of another brand new pandemic. And after all that time under lockdown, all those social distancing measures taken, all the vaccines developed and distributed, and of course all the countries out there that are still reeling from the effects of the virus, I don't think anyone wants to start again from scratch. No thank you. So maybe, and this could be a logical stretch a mile long, if we start talking about World War III and it doesn't happen, we could find ourselves fighting against a new viral threat. And if we take that as true, then could we possibly say that World War III would prevent a new virus? See where I'm coming from here? Not really. Yeah, it's a bit of a wild swing, I'll admit, but using what little I learned from elementary school debate class, I'd say the facts check out. Now, with that doozy out of the way, let's take a look at the actual event that inspired this video and then delve into the military history of Russia and Britain. In an international case of he said, she said, we've watched a very interesting operation play out over the past week or so. On June 23rd, Russia claimed to have shot at a British warship. Moscow said they had warned the ship not to proceed further, and doing so would result in warning shots being fired. With no apparent response or course change from the British vessel, shots were indeed fired at the ship, and a fighter jet dropped some bombs in the ship's path. Interestingly enough, though, Britain denies being shot at. The Ministry of Defense press office tweeted out, no warning shots have been fired at HMS Defender. The Royal Navy ship is conducting innocent passage through Ukrainian territorial waters in accordance with international law. We believe the Russians were undertaking a gunnery exercise in the Black Sea and provided the maritime community with prior warning of their activity. No shots were directed at the HMS Defender, and we do not recognize the claim that bombs were dropped in her path. So, what's really going on here? Who's telling the truth? Well, according to Philip Ingram, a former UK intelligence officer, Russia likely was just doing training exercises, but maybe didn't warn the Brits beforehand. However, they may have seen this as an opportunity to throw their weight around some and claim that these training exercises were actually warning shots. Ingram says that this is in line with their aggressive stance on Ukraine and not out of character. This doesn't really seem to spell out doom and disaster, though. It's Russia being Russia, not two countries looking to stir up trouble and start a war. But what if it was? Well, we can look to the long-standing history between Britain and Russia to figure out more. Despite plenty of alliances and rivalries over the years, it seems as though these two nations are not huge fans of each other lately. There was a recent alleged Russian cyber hacking campaign, although Russia denies it and says that Britain does not hold much of a place in their thinking. However, the Brits do indeed say that Russia was behind hostile foreign interference in recent years. Seems like they're in conversations like this a lot. With all this in mind, apparently relations between the two nations are close to frozen, and neither party seems too interested in warming up anytime soon. So if talks of war did crop up, there isn't much either side would commit to in keeping the peace. Although I can't imagine either side actively looking to heighten the stakes. Maybe, after all these years of continued espionage and sabotage, something would happen though. Like I mentioned before, there is a lot of history here. We can look back to when the duo teamed up against Napoleon way back when, or maybe when they became rivals during the Crimean War. How about the time they competed for control over Central Asia in the late 19th century? They were on the same side during the first two world wars. Could that be a pattern worth continuing? Or would they come close to fighting again like in the Cold War? There was a point after the Soviet Union dissolved that Russia and Britain seemed to get along quite well, as business and big profits bound them together. But with Russian expats often fleeing to Britain, things couldn't stay golden forever. These two deciding to start a world war would be huge, considering their international influence and power. It would probably start under the guise of a Ukrainian annex, or maybe some more naval tomfoolery. In the end, we don't really want that happening though. There is a lot to consider when predicting a world war, especially one led by two of the most storied wartime nations out there. What do you think would happen if Russia and Britain started World War III? Would the rest of the world join in, or just watch from afar, popcorn and all? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more luscious ones from What If China Attacked North America? Ace the Husky says, why can't our country leaders just duke it out instead of dragging everyone into their crap? Now this, I'd pay to see. Boris Johnson duking it out with Vladimir Putin. God, the feathers would fly, and by feathers I mean Boris's hair. Joe Fasano says, the only thing that is escape is the brain from the skull of many people right now. I didn't know skulls worked like that. Is there like a hatch back there or something? Alexander Figuera says, if any of these happen, then the world will burn. Well, the world's already slowly burning anyways. This will just speed up the process a little bit. And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.